You're listening to international investment advisor Doug Goldstein on the Goldstein on Gelt Show, the financial show where we'll talk about how you can make the most of your money. With all the confusing financial chatter bombarding you each and every day, Goldstein on Gelt will give you the practical information you want and need about living a financially stable life. Here's your host, money maven Doug Goldstein.
Okay, we are back. I'm very happy to have on the Goldstein on Gelt Show Tony Stubblebine, who co-founded a fantastic website called Coach.me. So for those of you who have been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt Show for a while, you know that habits are a critical tool to develop a successful financial life. And Tony actually helps people and coaches them in developing great habits. Tony, real pleasure to have you.
Doug, thank you so much for having me.
You know, a lot of times people believe, and I think rightfully so, that the habits that we have come from our parents. If our parents taught us to put a napkin on our lap or wash our hands after going to the bathroom, we learned this from them. But how can a person really, honestly develop a new habit?
I mean, it just comes from intent. You know, the thing about habits is it's a behavior that has become unconscious, so you don't have to think about it. And when you want to create new habits, you have to break out of the sort of the habitual thinking of doing what you've always done and say, well, wait a second, my life would be better if I routinely did these other things. And that's really the first step, is just to decide for yourself what it is that is going to help you be better, whatever it is that you want to do. I know we talked a little bit before the show about better finances. There's a ton of good habits in that area.
So let me just touch on this issue of intent. You know, they say the path to hell, the path to hell is paved with good intentions, which I think is very true. And you see this so often when people say, hey, I want to go on a diet, right? And it doesn't happen. They have the intent, but what's the next step to make it happen?
You know, there's a book that we reference a lot, and a lot of our coaches reference, called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, who's I think a Nobel Prize winning economist, but he actually wrote a book on how your brain works when it sort of comes to this area. And so if you think your brain has two modes of thought, one, the sort of like quick hitting, instinctual, often not exactly what you want, but always what your body wants. Sort of like, I always think about when I leave my office for lunch, if I have not planned where I'm going to lunch, I go wherever my stomach tells me to go, right? That's the fast thinking, the very emotional decision making. And I think that's where a lot of us get into trouble, because what we want is at a emotional level is not always what we want at a rational level. And then the other mode of thought, what he calls slow thinking, is slow and effortful and rational. And so one of the concepts that we pulled from that book that we use over and over again is this concept of pre-deciding. So if you can find yourself in one of those moments of slow thinking where you have the energy to put towards something, you can kind of like write down, well, you know, here are the places. Like for me, lunch is a big thing. I eat out a lot for lunch. And I could just write down, well, here are the places that I should go, and here's what I should order. And so that's a moment of pre-decision when I'm thinking slowly that then makes it much easier for those to become my defaults down the road. And then after that, you just have like all of these tactics around habit building that are about making your life easier. And so this is another lesson that we learned from a Stanford professor, B.J. Fogg, who runs a training program he calls Tiny Habits. And he uses a process that is very much around increasing or basically lowering the difficulty level of new habits. So a lot of us probably come in thinking we need more motivation. And his big aha was, well, no, like you already, like, don't rely on your motivation. Design the world around you for, so it's almost like you trip over it, right? It's like if you want to work out in the morning, put your workout clothes next to your bed. So you like literally fall over them as you're getting out of bed and you're like, oh, right, I was going to exercise today.
Right, that is very true. BJ Fogg is definitely the king of helping people develop habits, and he talks about tiny habits. And I just want to mention, by way of disclaimer, that Danny Kahneman, actually, who did in fact win the 2002 Nobel Prize in Economics, is a former guest of the Goldstein on Gelt Show.
Oh.
So if people missed that interview, they can take a look at it, like all of the interviews we do, by just going to YouTube and looking up Goldstein on Gelt and Daniel Kahneman to hear all the fascinating things he said. In fact, I'll tell you, Tony, it's interesting. When I recently wrote a book with a world chess champion about how the strategies of chess could be applied to investing, and because a lot of behavioral finance issues came up, we had the opportunity to speak to Professor Kahneman, and in fact, he even read our chapter on behavioral finance. So when you said talking about thinking fast and slow, you definitely are hitting close to my heart. I'm certainly a big fan of his. We're talking with Tony Stubblebine, who is the founder of a company called Coach.me, where they help people, and there's also a community aspect to it in terms of positive reinforcement. And Tony, I want to kind of take you up on what you were leading to before, which is you have some ideas for how people can use habit development to improve their finances. And in my day job, I see people doing just the opposite. They have very bad financial habits. What can you do to help people turn that around?
Well, I can talk a little bit about the applied psychology that we're putting into place at Coach.me. And this is, I think, we talked about BJ Fogg and Daniel because this is the fun part about my job is we're able to go out to these researchers, pick up their research, and then put it into practice through an app form. And so Coach.me actually started as a much more limited project that was simply around a community of habit trackers. And so we had a couple million people join and track their habits, and it could be any habit. And I think there's more than 200,000 different habits that people tried to pick up from like go to the gym to bring a bag lunch, which is totally a financial decision, to like call your mom and dad. And then around that loop of them setting the intent for a new habit and tracking their progress, we could put a lot of positive reinforcement that came from the community. And so the community would be there to cheer you on and to inspire you with their own progress, and then also to answer any questions that you might have. And so I wonder, this is actually a good discussion. What are good common sense habits for good, for just financial habits?
Well, let me give you a not obvious one. The obvious one that comes to mind is, saving, right? Everyone should put aside a little money every week. But let me make it a little more complicated. One of the bad habits people have in investing is when the market goes down, they sell. And when it goes up, they buy. So they're doing the classic formula of investment failure, which is they buy high and sell low. So how can we change the habit so they buy low and sell high, which would, of course, be a much more profitable model?
This is in the BJ model, it's sort of like, how can you break it down and really simplify it? And so it's like you could have a habit that is like simply like buy low, and you're just every day looking for things that are on a low. Does that make sense? Do you feel like people are buying high and low on the individual stock or on the market? I mean, obviously they're doing both.
Well, people get all excited when the market goes up. They go, "Oh, look how much money I can make!" So then they buy. I mean, it's not just who I talk to, but you see this happen in the market because then the market goes down, and then it's exacerbated because more people sell, and they keep selling into the down, which means that they're always selling lower than they're buying.
Right. Yeah, I wonder, is this something to do with a habit, or to tackle it through habits, or to tackle through some sort of pre-decision?
So I think the answer is, I see. So you got it. Pre-decision is very interesting. Maybe it's not a habit because also how often does a person buy and sell? You might just invest once a year. That's not a habit. So how would you apply pre-deciding to this paradigm?
Well, I mean, this is like, if you're investing through your company's, retirement fund, the pre-decision is just how much of your paycheck gets sent to your retirement every month, and you set that when you join the company with no analysis of the state of the market, and you just let it run, right? And so you're taking that decision out of your hands so that your sort of impulsiveness doesn't get in the way. And so that's very much an example of a pre-decision, and then you don't have to think about it ever again.
I like that. That's also, we often talk to people about the importance of having and thinking about their asset allocation, which is just a nice way of saying, what's the pie chart? What percentage in stocks and bonds and cash? And if you've decided that, then all the pieces fall into place because you have money managers or mutual funds or something to handle the day-to-day operations. And as you said, you've pre-decided.
Another good pre-decision tactic probably is sort of the checklist manifesto kind of concept of you just pre-decide on the checklist that you're going to go through before every new investment. And one of those should be, is the market up or down, right? You should know that before you make any decision. You can ask yourself this question: am I investing for emotional reasons or for logical reasons? And a lot of it, this goes back to the thinking fast and slow too, is a lot of your decisions, you're just they're sort of operating at this subconscious level. And it's amazing how easy it can be sometimes to move a decision just up to the rational level. Sometimes as simple as answering just a single question. Why am I investing in this?
And I like the model. So you've covered two things, and we're just about out of time. But I just want to clarify the takeaways that Tony, you've been talking about. One of them is the idea of pre-deciding, so that you're not in the heat of the moment making an emotional decision. And the second thing is using checklists, which I can say to run my company, we are checklist fanatics. Everything is a checklist, but that's why everything runs so smoothly. Tony, we are just about out of time, but in the last few seconds, tell us, how can people learn more about your work, follow you, and maybe get a little help from your company?
Well, the main thing I want to say is that we have grown from the habit tracking into a place where you can hire personal coaches for yourself, and those personal coaches are often focused on productivity and business and finance. And so all you have to do is come to our website, coach.me. You can get a personal coach starting at $15, actually. So we have incredibly affordable access to top coaches, and really easy to get started. All you have to do is visit the website.
Okay, so we will put a link to that at the show notes of today's show at goldsteinongelt.com. Tony Stubblebine, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt Show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Doug's weekly radio show is heard around the world, but if you miss it, you can download the podcast at www.goldsteinongelt.com. The Goldstein on Gelt Show gives you up-to-date financial ideas so you can get on the path to financial freedom. If you'd like your questions answered on the air or off, send Doug an email to doug@profile-financial.com. It's your money for your future, so join Doug every week to build your wealth on the Goldstein on Gelt Show.